Suicide Squad. I've really been looking forward to this one, especially in the past week or so. But this one is written and directed by David Ayers, who did Training Day and End of Watch. And it stars Will Smith, Margot Robbie, Jared Leto, and Viola Davis, and basically a ton of other actors, but it's going to take me forever to get to them. So basically, in case you've been living under a rock, Suicide Squad is this ragtag group of villains who gets assembled to go stop another big bad. This movie has been everywhere. Internet, TV, radio, posters, billboards, you name it, it's been there. It's had such a big marketing campaign, so if you don't know the basic story by now, you've been living probably under a rock. But that's beside the point. So for this video, I'm basically going to be doing what I did for my Batman v Superman video. I'm going to give you the normal stuff, the good, the bad, and then I'm going to get into a big spoiler. I'll put up a big spoiler warning. Because I'm going to talk about some stuff that happens in this film that I really need to talk about, including some things that other reviewers I've noticed have not yet talked about. So I'm excited to talk about that, so please stick around for that. And then I'll give you the grade, and then we'll put a big whopping bow on Suicide Squad and call it a wrap. So let's dive right in, and let's start with the good. Now the good is definitely some of the characters. I say some because only some were pretty good. Will Smith and Margot Robbie were the headliners of this movie. This is the Deadshot and Harley Quinn show. There really is some exposition stuff for a bunch of the other characters. They're in it a little bit, but this is mainly about them. They're the biggest stars. They get the most shots. They get the best moments of this entire film. It's basically Deadshot and Harley on an adventure with a bunch of other dudes. So basically that's what this movie is. Will Smith, I have to say, I definitely liked him as Deadshot. He was much, much better than I thought. I really didn't think he was going to be that great, but he completely surprised me. He's had a bunch of not so great movies in the past few years, but this is the Will Smith we know and love. This is the one who has so much charisma, so much energy he brings to a film, so much charm, and he brought it all for this film. I think he's been saving it for the past few movies. He totally didn't have it, and he brought it for this one, which was awesome. Next major character is Harley Quinn. The one we all basically saw this movie for, other than Jared Leto and a couple of other ones. But Harley Quinn was phenomenal. I would have to say, I've been on Margot Robbie overload for the past few years. She feels like she's been everywhere. But this is one of those situations where I feel kind of like Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool. This was a role meant for her. She was born to play this role. She did an absolutely phenomenal job. They did an amazing job. She did an amazing job. It was hands down the best performance of the entire film. Now, for the lesser known characters, a little bit more minor characters of the Suicide Squad, even though they're supposed to be a team, the more background team members, El Diablo was awesome. I absolutely loved his power. I loved his story arc. I loved everything about that. I don't know a whole lot of these characters very well, but El Diablo was definitely a big, big positive for me. Killer Croc, I kept looking at Killer Croc because he didn't get enough time, at least in my opinion, to shine in this film. But I kept going to him for some reason. I kept expecting him to say more, to do more. But his lines were a little bit muddled just because his voice is so deep. But I kept watching Killer Croc, and I just wish he was a little bit more in it. But I appreciate the practical makeup and a whole bunch of other stuff that happened with Killer Croc. Also, Captain Boomerang was pretty awesome. I have to admit that he was pretty much a comic relief for the most part. But Jai Courtney didn't completely ruin a role, which is probably the first time, at least in my opinion, since the first Jack Reacher movie. But that's beside the point. He did really good with the comedy aspect. The boomerangs I thought were a little bit lame, especially at one point. This isn't a spoiler, but they kind of use it as a batarang to have a camera on it. That I didn't really like a whole lot. But other than that, the side characters did pretty good. Also, if you like Slipknot a lot, which I pretty much didn't know who he was, kind of forget about it, because that doesn't last very long. But a lot of the other minor characters do really, well, not really great, but they're there for the most part. Also, Viola Davis did a great job as Amanda Waller. Now, I am not excited about Amanda Waller because, in case you do not know, I share a same last name with this individual. And in this movie, she is a total bit. And for the final positive is Jared Leto's Joker. A lot of what he did is very different from other versions, or at least borrowed from some other versions that we've already seen. I did feel like he was still being very original to at least his version of the Joker, which I liked a lot. They did a lot of things right with Joker, but there were small things that I didn't like. He's not actually in it that much, I thought he was going to get a lot more screen time based on what we saw in the promotional stuff, but we didn't only get about like 10 to maybe 15 minutes max of Joker chopped up throughout this film, mostly in flashbacks, but we do get some present. It was different from what we've mostly seen. I liked the laugh, I liked his sort of weirdness. He was dark, but he was also sort of had that humor to him. There was a lot of positives. But again, I feel like he wasn't in it enough for me to really get a good feel for it. Like, I really want him to be the big bad of something, which I was really hoping in this film, which I'm going to get to in a few minutes. So with this little segue of the Joker, I'm going to kind of lead into the negative stuff. He also did this weird thing where he was I liked it a lot because he was very, very dark, but they overused some of that, I think, a little bit. I think Joker was a little bit less fun. I think that that's the direction they try and go to since Heath Ledger's version. And I feel like sometimes that's a little bit too much because I want them to make it their own. It doesn't have to be Joker being so serious all the time. He needs to make more jokes. He needs to be a Joker. He needs to be insane. They captured a lot of that, but I think they went a little too dark at sometimes. So, like I said, I can't wait to see a little bit more of Joker, have him be the main villain, have a full movie involving him as one of the main characters, hopefully in the solo Batman films that Ben Affleck's going to be doing. Also, another negative was Katana. I didn't really like Katana's character. They reiterated her story twice. She has her like husband's soul in this sword that he was like murdered by, and she has to kill other people, and she traps their soul into the sword or something like that. She talks to the sword. That's pretty comic book accurate. She talks to the sword and stuff with her husband's soul in it. But they reiterated this point to us 2 times. I felt like, okay, we get it. I got it with the first time. I don't need to be told a second time what's going on with this character. I felt like they were treating me kind of like I was stupid. They kept telling us stuff about characters from other characters. So it's kind of like a game of telephone. Like Rick Flag, the main sergeant army guy that's leading the Suicide Squad into this situation, he tells sort of tiny bits of story about each character, other than like Deadshot and Harley Quinn, the ones we get the most time with, which I felt like was unnecessary. Like, I wish they would have just showed us or told us, but not have a character in the movie tell us about another character. I didn't really like that game of telephone. It felt very unnecessary to the whole story. Another massive negative to this film is the story. About the first 30 to 40 minutes of all setting up the Suicide Squad, bringing them together, giving us backstory, that was super awesome. I was all for it. Then we get into the second and third act, and it just sort of goes downhill. It was not very interesting. It sort of became bland and boring. The story felt very familiar. It has definitely it drew a lot of influences from things we've seen repeatedly, which was very, very annoying. I feel so overdone with this story that I just feel like they had the right concepts and the right people. They had the right everything. But I think the story is where they shot themselves in the foot because it's something we've sort of seen before, visually at least, and it's just kind of tiresome to see it again, especially when I had so much hope for this movie to be different from the rest of the other summer blockbusters. So I'm going to jump into the spoilers now because there's a lot of different stuff that I really, really want to get to. So in case you don't want to know anything or if you haven't seen this movie yet, go to this time right here. That's where I'm going to start talking about the grade and get into the end of this video. If you want to be spoiled, or if you just simply have to know or whatever, have seen the film, stick around and I'm going to talk about some stuff, and including some other stuff, like I said, other reviewers have not talked about yet. So I'm going to get into that right now. So here's a big spoiler warning. I'll give you like 5 seconds. Now I'm going to do the spoilers. Spoilers! So, Batman does make several small appearances, about 2-ish appearances, maybe 3, and they are super awesome. This is the Batman we all wanted. Ben Affleck did a great job. It was perfect. They added just a little sprinkle of Batman throughout Suicide Squad, and it was definitely worth it. It was so cool. It's mainly with Deadshot that Batman's story is involved, but they use a little bit with Joker and Harley Quinn, which was really cool. Where he's on he's on the top of the car, and they jump into this river, or ocean, whatever bay that Gotham has. So Joker can swim, but Harley can't. So Joker abandons Harley, and that's how Harley gets caught. Anyway, he punches Harley. Is it necessary to show him punching Harley? Probably not. But it's also a cool comic book moment because they do fight in the comic books. It wasn't like a woman bashing thing or anything like that. It was just sort of this comedic moment. Everyone in the theater that I was at laughed at that moment because they understand Harley is a villain. Batman is fighting her. It's not necessarily a bad moment, and I don't think it was frowned upon. I think it kind of fit the overall tone of the film. Also, we got a tease that another Justice League member would be joining, or at least having a cameo in Suicide Squad. And I predicted it. It was The Flash. So we get a tiny, tiny bit of Ezra Miller as The Flash. He runs in, says a quick little thing about to Boomerang before he captures him. And it's pretty awesome. It's so fast, though. Basically, Flash fast. He has this quick little joke and something about turning on his... No honor among thieves, that's what it was. No honor among thieves is what he says. And then he captures Boomerang. This was super cool. I was so psyched. It happened so fast. I can't wait to watch it again. Has me even more hyped for Justice League. But those are the two big superhero moments of the Suicide Squad. And it was super awesome. Totally worth that part. Now for the thing that no one has talked about in any other reviews. There are very popular movie reviewers on YouTube and on every site that they haven't mentioned this yet, so I'm super excited to be talking about it. But they give you small sort of expositions of each character. Like they'll show Deadshot or they'll just show Harley Quinn. They'll sort of have like this rap sheet that shows up next to them in the text. In the Harley Quinn, it says that she killed Robin. Now, if you are a comic book nerd like myself, you know that the Joker killed Robin, and Robin later becomes the Red Hood. This is super crazy to me. I can't wait for them to fully explain it at some point, that Harley killed Robin instead of Joker killing Robin. Like maybe Harley was keeping him locked up and Joker gave the order while he was off fighting Batman or something. I don't know how it's going to work, but just that tiny little bit of text, it was super awesome. I think it's great that they added Harley into that whole storyline because if you remember in Batman v Superman, they show the Robin suit in the Batcave with haha jokes on you. That was Harley that wrote that, not the Joker. That's a big twist in my mind. Not a bad twist, just a big twist because now they can better fold in Harley into the whole DC universe, DC extended universe as it is in the movies. And I am super excited because we're going to get more Harley Quinn. We're going to get Batman, obviously, some more. We're going to get Joker some more. We're going to get a lot of the world that I want to see really, really bad more, and I can't wait. So I spoke earlier that they don't really tell us about the villain of the film, which basically they hid very, very well. It's very much implied that the Joker is the villain. He is not. Actually, the villain is Enchantress, and it kind of sucks because Enchantress was not that interesting. She just brings this magical element. The cool thing about Enchantress is she only has two cool moments. Number one, she does this super cool transformation in this boardroom thing when Amanda Waller is introducing the Suicide Squad. She has her hand on a desk or whatever, and then she says Enchantress or whatever because she's all distraught. And a black hand comes out and grabs her hand like that and flips it, and all of a sudden they pan up and she's the Enchantress. That was the coolest visual moment of this entire film, CG, special effects, whatever. Hands down the coolest thing was involving Enchantress, which I really hated. Ironic. But anyway, another big thing that she did was really cool. Late in the film, right before the big fight, she sort of puts into everyone's minds, the Suicide Squad members' minds, their ideal sort of life. So for example, Deadshot killed Batman instead of being stopped by him, which is explained earlier in the film. Harley has a normal life with kids, with Jared Leto. Normal Jared Leto, not Joker Jared Leto. This was a really big deal. I was so surprised that they put that whole moment in there. But Jared Leto did kind of look like he did. Well, he looks the same a lot, but he looked very much like in American Psycho, which I thought was kind of funny. But anyway, so Rick Flag gets this vision of Enchantress's other side, June Moon, and having this sort of life with her. Diablo, they show his family, which his wife and his kids, which he killed, by the way, also another spoiler, but I'm in the spoiler section, which he killed, and his life with them, how his ideal sort of life with them would be. But he's the one that breaks this mold by accepting that he did this bad thing. But anyway, that was another really cool thing that Enchantress did. Other than that, Enchantress completely sucked. Two amazing reasons why, just totally awful character. Number one, Cara Delevingne kept doing like this belly dancer sort of like movement. Like, I don't know what she was doing. That was terrible. Not only did she do the belly dancer thing like the entire time, especially when she was talking, which brings me to my next big negative about Enchantress, the voice. It felt like it was just coming from somewhere else. It felt like a really, really bad dubbing of like this person. Like, they didn't like Cara Delevingne's acting and voice enough. Like, we just need her for the look. Forget about the voice. We're just going to add that in later. Like, it felt like it was coming from somewhere else. It didn't feel like it was coming from her. So it felt like it very much took me out of the movie, and I did not enjoy that whole aspect whatsoever. I would have much better preferred the Joker. They did something more. If they did something more along the lines of Batman Assault on Arkham, which is a cartoon of the Suicide Squad, basically, where Joker has like this bomb and stuff like that. That would have been a much better story. I would have much better appreciated Jared Leto's Joker, but also having a little bit of Jared Leto's Joker instead of a whole movie about it also intrigued me some more. So there's pros and cons to it, so I'm very much on the fence about that. But I did not like Enchantress. I wish Joker would have been the main villain, as it was implied by promotional material, but what can I do about it now? Also, two other big things that really, really annoyed me relate to the final battle of this film. Number one, it takes place in the most stereotypical sort of arena type, like the bad guys are on one side and the bad guy in this situation is on the other side, and there's this big open middle space like arena style. There's some debris there, and they have to fight, and I didn't really like that. It felt very overused. The other big negative for that whole aspect is that they have this giant beam of light that shoots into the sky because Enchantress wants to destroy all technology, but she does it in a really stupid way with lightning. Not the way you destroy technology. I wish they would have done some cool way of like little black things like creeping onto technology. I don't know, but they made it a storm, which was really stupid. But anyway, back to the beam of light. The beam of light is the worst part of it because we've seen this beam of light so much recently, and it's become so annoying to watch. We've seen it in the new Ghostbusters, Transformers 3, Star Trek, Harry Potter, the newest Fantastic Four, which was also bad. Also the Avengers. They did that beam of light in the Avengers, which sort of, it was a different thing to destroy the world, but it brought a portal to Earth, so it works in the same context, but you get what I mean. This beam of light that shoots up, you've seen this beam of light in every sci-fi action movie. It's so overused, and they really need to stop. They need to find something new. Like I said, if Joker had a bomb in the middle of the city, and he like planted it everywhere or something, much more enjoyable than, in my opinion at least, because would have gotten some great acting and character moments instead of going after a lady who wants to shoot a beam of light in the sky again and destroy technology and the planet as a whole. That was just a bad idea to me, and I did not like that whole aspect whatsoever. The final spoiler is going to be a mid-credit scene. Now, there is no post-credit scene, FYI. You don't have to stay all the way through the end because there's a mid-credit scene. So what happens in this mid-credit scene is that Amanda Waller gives Bruce Wayne like a folder very reluctantly filled with metahumans, all the known metahumans, including Enchantress, The Flash, and Aquaman. Now obviously this is setting up the Justice League movie. Bruce Wayne is getting this file. He says he doesn't have any friends. And then he tells Amanda Waller to basically cut it out with the whole Suicide Squad thing and let him and his future friends, aka the Justice League, take care of it from now on. Because basically what she did was really, really stupid by sending in villains to deal with something that they shouldn't have dealt with, especially in a world where heroes, although they may not be known to what extent, I'm not sure, like the Flash and Batman already exist. Why would you call them villains when you could just as easily have called them heroes to take care of the problem in half the time? But we wouldn't have a movie regardless. But something interesting that I think Bruce Wayne said was that he said, cut it out, which basically meant to me, like the last 2 hours or however long the Suicide Squad movie is, that it kind of negated that whole thing. Like, it's like, forget what you just watched. We're going to do Justice League and all the heroes now. Don't worry about what you just saw for the last 2 hours. It doesn't matter, because now we have Justice League and we're back on the hero track. It was almost like they didn't really want to acknowledge it, but they also did want to acknowledge it in some kind of weird way. But it sets up the Justice League and Wonder Woman and all that other stuff, which I'm definitely excited for. So welcome back if you just skipped all the spoilers. If you haven't and you stuck with me through all the spoilers because you've seen Suicide Squad or you just had to know what happens, welcome to the grade. So the grade that I'm going to give Suicide Squad is a C-. This film was just okay for me. It wasn't overly exciting. It did have its moments, I'm not going to lie. There were a lot of great character moments, a lot of small things that I felt they did right, but they didn't necessarily do a great job overall. That's why it's kind of got that middle of the road grade. It didn't overly excite me. Yes, it had its moments, but it also had a lot of flaws as well. This movie was highly criticized. It did not get the greatest reviews whatsoever. And I can kind of understand why. It has its moments, but it also has a lot of downfalls as well. Other than some of the characters, I feel like this film should have been much, much later in the whole scheme of the DC universe. I felt like it, although it is definitely a fun concept with a lot of great ideas, a lot of great side characters, I feel like this is something you do after the Batman films, after Flash, after Wonder Woman, after Aquaman, after the Justice League as a whole. This is a film that WB should have been doing, at least in my opinion, probably after all of those major franchises were already established. In a way, I felt like they were trying to do Guardians of the Galaxy because they took a ragtag group of bad guys and make them go up against another bad guy. It has them coming together, and it also has this awesome mix of music. It has all kinds of music, Eminem, K7, all kinds of great music was used. Even Bohemian Rhapsody, they paid a lot of money probably for that. But I feel like they tried to combine all of these songs into this bad guys beating bad guys type of movie, like Guardians of the Galaxy did, just with a darker tone. And in some ways it worked, but other ways it didn't. And I think that's why I feel sort of conflicted, because Guardians did it so right, as much as I hate to say it because it's a Marvel movie, but I love Guardians of the Galaxy because I love DC. And I really wanted this movie to succeed, but it did some things right, but it also had so many downfalls that I just feel kind of middle of the road about it. I'm very, very sorry, DC. I love you very, very much. I always have and I always will. I will continue to look forward to your movies and try and stay positive. Wonder Woman and Justice League are on their way. But I feel like this one just didn't do it for me. I feel like even Batman vs. Superman did a better job, especially the Ultimate Edition. Maybe there will be some like super mega mix or whatever you want to call it, Ultimate Edition of Suicide Squad when it comes out on Blu-ray, and maybe that will help explain or fix some of those weird things that happened, because even Jared Leto came out and said that there were a ton of different scenes that they did with the Joker, a ton of different things they experimented with that didn't make the final cut. Maybe some of those little things could have made the film even better. Not just in relation to the Joker, but to other characters as well, giving them a little bit more screen time, giving them a little bit more story, a little bit more just something that would have made it a better experience overall. But I guess we'll find out when the Blu-ray comes out. So guys, that's all for my review for Suicide Squad. Let me know down in the comment section below. What did you think about it? Have you seen it? What character was your favorite? What was your favorite moment? What did you like, dislike? There's so much to talk about in this movie. You could pretty much pick any topic, whether I talked about it or not, and leave a comment. I would love to talk to you about it because this was something that I feel needs to be talked about, whether it's good or bad. There's plenty of things to discuss about it. So let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and like always, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos, and we'll see you in the next one.